So Paramount released a new trailer for their new D&D movie on July 21st out of nowhere. No one even knew this is a thing, or at least I didn't, and then it dropped. So let's dive into this and break down everything you guys missed, frame by frame. Okay, so we saw a few cool things there. Right away we can see a few big stars have been cast for this. Chris Pine from the Star Trek franchise, Justice Smith from the Detective Pikachu movie, Sophia Lillis from It, and Michelle Rodriguez from the Fast and Furious franchise. Immediately after, we spot our first few monsters, which appear to be a Displacer Beast, Gelatinous Cube, and Black Dragon. We also see a few spells cast before the title card comes on screen.
Here's the thing. We're a team of thieves. And when you do this, you're bound to make enemies. Sometimes those enemies come looking for revenge.
Okay, so there was a lot to go over in just those first 25 seconds. Right after the title card, we got a view of a D&D city that I believe to be Neverwinter, a very popular metropolis in the Forgotten Realms setting. Chris Pine begins narrating to us as him and his adventuring party begin walking through the streets of a city, likely the one shown in the previous clip. In the city background, we see people running as our party walks into the danger, likely the red-robed mage from later on in the video. Looking around, we see many stalls that are selling equipment that looks very similar to what a character's starting gear might be. One stall has lots of ropes, the stall behind it has different types of packs, the stall on the bottom right of the screen has instruments and small trinkets, and in the very back looks to be a stall selling weapons. The party walks past a fountain with a stone dragon statue. Later in the trailer they are seen facing off against a stone gargoyle-looking dragon. It is likely this statue come to life. We then cut to our very first dungeon. It is covered with lava even cascading down across the various rock islands that are being held up by chains. In that same volcano dungeon, we see our party being led by a new character, played by Regé-Jean Page from Bridgerton. We see them walking past various cookie-cutter statues of what appear to be half-orcs or some similar bulky, elven-like race. A few of these statues appear to have been made without the top halves, and they are all holding bowls full of bones. The party is then seen opening a chest with a strange helmet inside. We later see this helmet used to cast what appears to be a pulse wave spell. As they pull the helm out, Chris Pine's character gives it a greedy stare, maybe showing us that they tricked Regé-Jean Page's character into getting it to them, and now they plan to steal it for themselves. This would also explain why he is not in the original shot of the party walking around Neverwinter. And we see our first big monster, a black dragon, which is so damn cool. I'm so glad they decided to use a different type of dragon other than a fire spitter to really help sell that this is in fact a mystical D&D world.
Truth be told, we helped the wrong person steal the wrong thing. We didn't mean to unleash the greatest evil the world has ever known. But we're gonna fix it.
So how do we pull that off? Figure it out over a drink?
Probably best.
Okay, a few more important things here. We are shown steep island cliffs over the ocean with a crashed boat. We later see Chris Pine and Justice Smith running across these islands as if trying to get away from something, likely the same thing that smashed their boat. We cut to the scene of Chris Pine and Justice Smith and a new character running across these cliffs. Here we see Chris Pine's character in actual light armor, much more fitting to a rogue. The film is called Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves after all, yet you will notice that none of the characters we've seen so far are actually rogues. Chris Pine's character is a bard, so this scene with the armor is a bit strange. We are then shown the new character from before up close as she grabs what is more than likely the Horn of Orcus, a very well-known and powerful magic item in the Forgotten Realms. We now see our new character's face, still in the same garb as she was in the previous scene, meaning this is all happening in the same sequence. Our new character is played by Daisy Heed from King Arthur Legend of the Sword. We are then shown an inverted pan to a red-robed, seemingly deformed figure holding the horn. I think this is Vecna or some type of very powerful lich. We also see the BBEG of this movie triumphantly standing over a massive crowd of common folk. In a later scene, we see this crowd apparently charging what appears to be a bunch of red-robed, bald mages who resemble the BBEG, repelling them with shield spells. These are likely cultists, as we see one of them fighting the party in a later clip. Right after the scene with the Wall of Mages, we see Chris Pine, Daisy Reed, and another new character, played by Hugh Grant from The Gentleman, who is playing an actual rogue. This is actually the same room that we had seen Chris, Justice, and Daisy run into earlier, meaning the Horn of Orcus that they had obtained earlier was likely not handed to the BBEG by anyone in that room, but rather taken. More than likely, the people about to take the horn here are the same ones that smashed their boat to pieces along the cliffs. As the party is attacked, we see Daisy Reed using what appears to be a slow spell to stop that volley of arrows from hitting the party. Now, I don't think the ones after the party here are the minions of the BBEG because we clearly saw his minions spellcasting earlier, so why would they use weapons now? These are likely just a detachment of soldiers after the party because they are, in fact, thieves. Likely the horn is confiscated here and taken to Neverwinter where it is stolen by the Red Road Mage we see the party fighting later on in the trailer. Here we see Michelle Rodriguez apparently jumping in front of a wave of debris with an unknown character on the floor. I think that guy is one of the guards trying to catch the party. Right after, we see Justice Smith is the one casting that slow spell as Chris Pine walks away from them mournfully, likely showing that this is a betrayal scene. We are then shown a beautiful shot of the party riding horseback through a forest covered in dust as a giant spider crawls up a tree. Creepy. We then cut to a scene of Regé Jean Page's character staring at a bowl of bones from the earlier scene I described with the statues. The bones begin to shake, and that means the party's about to roll initiative. Later in the trailer, we see the party duke it out against a red dragon inside a volcanic environment. And I'm willing to bet these shaking bones is that dragon awakening. We then cut off to a throwaway joke of Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez going to a tavern, potentially to meet the rest of the party.
Figure it out over a drink?
Probably best. You need to give us a fighting chance. We're gonna need strength. You got this, right?
I know you don't.
We also need courage, magic, and you. What is that again? It's an owlbear.
So now we got to see some character stuff that I think is really cool. We first get to see a couple of beautiful travel scenes across a glacier and then an English countryside. We then cut to Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez walking up a staircase in shackles, likely after being captured from the fight in the room on the cliffs. Behind them is a long-haired, unknown character also in chains, although I think this is just an extra. Right after, we are shown Michelle Rodriguez holding a magical axe that looks to be a flame tongue weapon, even though axes can't be flame tongue. But the axe is 100% magical and 100% has some type of fire enchantment on it. The axe scene is completely unrelated to the following scene, however, which demonstrates Michelle Rodriguez beating down some guards bare-fisted to break out of the prison. This scene just helps to solidify the fact that Michelle Rodriguez is in fact playing a barbarian. We are then shown Regé Jean Page's character confidently marching up to a bunch of bald cultists guarding the same room that they stole that helmet from in an earlier scene. We get to see him imbue his weapon with Divine Smite and pull a cool sword-to-dagger weapon switch. This scene helps to solidify the fact that Regé Jean Page is playing a paladin. Later in this trailer, we see these bald cultists ignite a green flame blade cantrip, likely preparing for the battle we just saw a clip of with Regé Jean Page. We then see Justice Smith don the stolen helmet from before and send out a massive shockwave that I believe is a pulse wave spell, although the range is absolutely insane. This scene here is to show that he is the party's wizard or sorcerer. We then get a quick close-up of Sophia Lillis' character showing us her horns and elf ears. Now, she is a tiefling in this, as we later see her with a tiefling tail, although it is odd seeing her with normal skin and not the red or purple skin that tieflings usually have. Immediately after, we get an awesome scene of Sophia Lillis wild shaping from a horse to an owlbear and just tearing apart these soldiers. Now, I know druids can't normally wild shape into owlbears, but this scene is badass, and I don't really think it does anything but improve the whole movie. This scene is to show us that Sophia Lillis is the party's kick-ass druid.
Be warned. There is evil here.
I'm glad he's on our side.
Okay, so after that we get another beautiful travel scene of the party traveling to a volcano, probably the same one they stole the helmet from. We then get to see the stone dragon I mentioned earlier come to life with golden lights rippling across its body. We then get a cool scene of Sophia Lillis using what I think is a dimension door to teleport into what appears to be a coffer room, likely to do a little thieving. We then get another scene of the party with Regé Jean Page, and they appear to have descended into a cave. The volcanic rock shards behind them make me think that this is still the same volcano so many of the scenes of the trailer have been from. We then get another truly gorgeous scene of what looks like an underdark city. Right after, we see Regé Jean Page crawling along the wall saying,
There is evil here.
Right after, we see the bald cultist guarding the helmet ignite the green flame blade I mentioned from before. You can see the rock formations behind the cultists are the same kind Regé Jean Page was crawling along in the scene before, and the same ones from the scene before that, meaning that Underdark City might be an entire city of crazy cult people that eventually leads to the volcano lair. We then see some more of Regé Jean Page's fight scene from earlier.
This one's dangerous. But whatever happens, we'll be ready.
So the big reveal scene, did you catch it? We first get a scene where Daisy Heed fires off a lightning bolt spell. Important to note that this is in the same fight scene she used the slow spell to stop all those arrows. We then see Justice Smith using a shield spell to stop a giant fireball. Now, this is likely not a fireball spell just because fireball isn't a projectile and it can't be shielded. This may be a high-level firebolt or a meteor from a meteor swarm spell, but I'm not really sure. The mage that fires this spell, though, is a minion of the BBEG. You can tell from the red cloak. This fight appears to be taking place in Neverwinter, likely right after the party escaped from the guards. We then see the players in a Colosseum-type pit with Hugh Grant's character being framed as some sort of mayor or political type overseeing this event. This may be after a time skip within the movie to describe why Hugh Grant is no longer with the party, or these could be two unrelated scenes altogether. We then get to see Michelle Rodriguez get attacked by a mimic she was likely trying to rob from. We then get a scene of Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez speaking to a new character played by Chloe Coleman from Gunpowder Milkshake. Behind them, we can see Hugh Grant and Justice Smith. We then get a very fun scene of Chris Pine, Justice Smith, and Sophia Lillis diving into a gelatinous cube to avoid a displacer beast. You can see Sophia's tiefling tail as well as they dive in. We now get a pretty cool scene of the party battling that same mage who sent the fireball at them. We see Chris Pine in the left holding his loot like a club because what else is a bard gonna do at this range? Sophia Lillis diving into a cool somersault because there wasn't enough dexterity checks in the trailer. Justice Smith firing Rays of Frost, and what looks like Michelle Rodriguez having her axe knocked away by an Eldritch Blast. We then get the big reveal. Daisy Heed's character is the mage battling the party and a servant of the BBEG. Likely, she had helped the party get the horn. Then after being captured by the Neverwinter Guard, she broke out with the party, stole the horn, and revealed her evilness, after which the party attacked. We then see Daisy Heed misty step away from Sophia Lillis in owlbear form, and likely around this point is where she launched that fireball from earlier. We then get the epic red dragon scene where the dragon awakens in the volcano, attacks the party, and Regé Jean Page heroically jumps at the beast, sword drawn. Given how D&D tends to go and the lack of Regé Jean Page in this trailer outside of those volcano scenes, I don't know how confident I am that he walks away from this.
What is it exactly that you bring to this?
I'm a planner. I make plans.
You've already made the plan, so
If the existing plan fails, I make a new plan.
you make plans that fail.
No,
He also plays the lute.
not relevant.
In the final scene, we get a funny bit of back and forth within the party confirming Chris Pine is a bard in this movie, and at the very end I am hoping that is a failed charisma check. So that was the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves trailer. All in all, I think this movie looks great. Not too serious, not too funny, which is about how all good D&D campaigns go. I'm getting very Guardians of the Galaxy vibes from this, and I love it. Regardless, there is likely going to be many more trailers and teasers dropped leading up to the movie's release, and you can bet we'll be covering all of those as well. Be sure to join our Discord in the description if you want to join our ever-growing D&D community. New games are made every day for players, so there's no reason not to join if you love the game. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future videos, and I will see you all at the tavern.